today, what we're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about lead generation. And I just wanted to throw out there how everybody's generating leads. Now, it doesn't matter what method you're using for morning, Ollie, for generating leads. The same principles apply, and they apply whether you are doing all of your lead generation at networking meetings, whether you're doing it through Google, whether you're doing it online, whether you're doing it at networking meetings, it all applies the same. So I thought I'd drill into exactly what it is everybody's doing. Now, Nathan, you were saying that you've been really busy of late. Can you put it, so you must have had quite a fair number of inquiries. Can you put that down to anything you've done in particular? Because I know you're active on LinkedIn, but...
Yeah, I would say 90% of the jobs I've done recently are kind of second or third connections through doing networking over the last couple of years.
Right.
I haven't had a LinkedIn prospect turn into a job in a few months, but yeah.
Right. So they're really connections of what you've been doing outside of LinkedIn on your other networking efforts, etc. And yes. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Anybody else? We're talking about generating leads. Morning, Martin. Morning, Anne-Marie, Rebecca, Andy. We're talking about lead generation, and it doesn't matter whether we're talking about lead generation online or offline or whatever method. There's no question about it. If we want to do business tomorrow, we need to have been doing lead generation maybe a few months ago. Some people have a situation where they can put some promotion out there and they get the business immediately. But for many of us, it takes time. And I want to examine that. Who else has got an upturn in leads at the moment? Nick.
Hi, everyone. Hold on.
Is that Rob about to talk then?
Yeah, sorry, it is me. You can't see me. I'm still driving.
Yes, Rob.
Go ahead, Nick. Okay. So lead generation, just speaking along the theme of the ideal client we talked about recently, I've just been making in touch with people who are footsteps towards those ideal clients last week, and have reached out to sort of second and third contacts on LinkedIn. And that's a kind of slow burn, but it's about getting to know that particular niche market. So I've been somewhat busy there, but there's more I can do, but I'm looking forward to it because it's quite an enjoyable process.
Right. What in particular do you enjoy about it? I mean, how did you approach that?
Just calling people directly. So what I've noticed is sometimes we live by diaries, and we might try and see if someone's available, but actually I've had quite a bit of success just calling people up out of the blue, and actually liked it. And they said, I don't know why I don't call people out of the blue. It's quite nice. So, a bit like knocking on your friend's door when you're a kid to see if he's coming out to play. It's just try your luck. And if they're not available, they've called me back, and just had some conversations about their world, and their world overlaps with the people that I want to serve. So it's been nice to hear about things from their point of view.
So were they people that you are looking at as a potential prospect, or a conduit, a referral partner?
Referral partner.
Okay. Yeah. So the people and were they people you knew before, or just complete strangers?
One of them is a former client. One is a social contact from years ago who's a sports agent. So yeah, those are the two so far.
That's good. So probably more of that would produce more. You say it's a slow burn. It does take time. Because in anybody's decision to buy anything, timing is everything. Nobody ever talks about that, but we take time to make decisions, especially considered decisions. Nick, you've got an upturn in business. Obviously, the visual arts are getting an upturn in business, but in terms of lead generation, people who are interested to talk to you.
Yeah, I don't think one thing that I can put my finger on and say that's the one thing that's bringing in the business. I think there's a kind of post-pandemic or a recovery shift going on, which maybe Nathan has seen as well. And I think people who've had things on hold are now starting to invest. But I think the three areas for me are I'm seeing some repeat clients, some business to business repeat clients coming back for second and third projects. So that's really good. And I think I always like to, it's great to do work for clients you've worked with before. You know them, they know you. And I think it shows that hopefully you're doing a good job with them. The second one is I think you're getting more work through direct inquiries through Google now. I don't do any Google advertising, but I have spent a lot of time working on my Google My Business profile and my Google my Google reviews. So I don't know whether there's something going on there where Google is just more favorably putting me, up the rankings in certain kind of services and keywords.
It's probably organic ranking because of the content you're putting out.
And I'm not doing any AdWords investments or anything. I know Marcus is doing a bit more of that on his kind of headshot area. And then the third one is, I think, some primary and secondary networking, where that I see that as a much slower burn. You never quite know when that's going to come in, but I think if you keep at it, it can drip, and leads can come from that. But that's about a long-term time investment and relationship building investment, I guess.
You mentioned about business being relative. Business coming from people who are already former clients. Is it that just by chance they reached out to you, or did you actively reach out to them?
I keep in contact with them every 6 months. So I just drop a note and just kind of generally show an interest in their business and ask them how things are going. And quite often, where there are marketing managers that I'm talking to, those marketing managers can move on to new roles. I think it's really important to keep those relationships going. So if people do move on, maybe other people in the organisation you can keep talking to as well, so that you've got some contacts in the business that aren't just through that one person you've dealt with. I found in the past, if you only deal with one person and then they go to a different organisation, you've lost everything and you've got to start from scratch again. And you're effectively a nobody if you go back in, if there's a new marketing director in there. So it's just kind of just trying to keep the relationship going and keeping it warm and actually showing a genuine interest in what they do as well.
I think that's why people are attracted to you, Nick. I know when I was calling on hairdressing salons, I would never ever ignore the juniors or the junior stylist, or actually the juniors that do the shampooing, etc. Because you just never know what influence they will have in the future, because a lot of them will go and own their own salons, etc. And that's how you got business. Mel, you got a point.
Yeah, just picking up on that one, Paul. Actually, it's in the agency world, it's the juniors or the mid-range marketing managers who will influence whether you keep the business or not. It's not the managing director that we take out to lunch once a year. It's the people who you service every single day. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I wanted to kick this off with getting the impression of what everybody's doing. Good morning, Chris. But I want to just share something at the moment to take it further on, and then I want to do some breakout sessions, but probably not the way you imagine. So let me just share the screen. Let me just move those. I imagine you can all see those. Just let me remind you that you can get replays and of all the content we've ever had on your desktop, or in fact on your app, and it can be quite useful, especially as we're always strapped for time. If you're going anywhere or you're out on a jog or whatever, you can always at least play the videos and just listen to the audio, which is what I've been doing this morning. I've been aware of an organization called MLSP, which is My Lead System Pro. And of course, I thought that would be particularly interesting from the fact that we're talking about lead generation. They've got a really fascinating article and ebook, all to do with attraction marketing. And I'll give you the link to that in the chat in a moment if you want to take it further. And But basically, they put some method, and I thought I'd just steal it for today because it just fits perfectly into what I would have created anyway. Maybe we got the original idea from them, I don't know. But it's to do with attraction marketing, and attraction marketing is inbound marketing. We talked about outbound, which is where you're being proactive, and we're talking about inbound, where because of the content and because of the way you are online or at networking events or whatever, people are reaching out to you. You are an attractive person. And they say the definition of attraction marketing is a marketing strategy that attracts customers and clients to you who already want to buy what you have to offer. Now, that wouldn't be marvelous, that if the only people we had to talk to were people who were ready to buy right now or very soon. And I guess that's something that we would all like to happen. And they make some really interesting points, and they are points that we've covered before. And bearing in mind, this is going out to a lot of people that are maybe employees, or maybe they've got a home business and they're promoting their company's brand, etc. I think people need to understand, who is your brand? Is it your company? Is my brand Marketing Crew, or is my brand Paul Clegg? You've got names for your businesses, but you've got you as a personality. And what they suggest is that you must brand you, not your company. People join people. People are attracted to people, not companies. And I'm interpreting that from, we can get into a company speak, and I find that very easy to do. You know, I know when I've written any copy, I suddenly look back at it, and it's more to do with what I would write as a marketing person rather than what I would write and say as an individual. And people right now are looking for people who know where they're going and are absolutely certain their posture, their language, their whole persona is about certainty. And that's fair. I would suggest that's fairly lacking at the moment. Generally, people are uncertain about the future. Is the lockdown going to come back? Will this pandemic be worse than ever? I don't know. They want certainty. They want positivity. And that has to come from us as individuals. And basically, they say people will follow people who have got that certainty, who are taking a leadership role. Interestingly, I did a video yesterday that has got quite a bit of traction so far, at least for me, not for some of you guys. You do these things far better. But it's quite interesting. I did a video straight to camera. And somebody this morning has contacted me and said, I'm amazed. He said that there was no break. Did you edit that? And I only edited one bit. And it was all about a story of when I started in sales, when I got my first interview. And in the original take, I said, and I got to meet girls and they paid me. And that's what I said. And I thought, when I looked at it, I thought, blimey, it sounds as if I'm prostituting myself. So I very neatly cut the "and they paid me" out of the video. That's the only thing I skipped out of it. But what I've drawn from that is not only the importance of being yourself and branding you as an individual. It's people join people, people connect with people, not necessarily the company they're representing or working. And so that's what I've taken from that about branding. And I suppose branding, as I've said before, is your reputation, what people say about you behind your back. Now, you want people talking about you behind your back. You want people talking to other people about how good you are, not how bad you are. And of course, the gossip can come from if you've not got a good reputation. The second thing that they suggest is defining the audience. And I was thinking about this on the way around my walk this morning. You know, sometimes we think about the people we've reached out to or we've invited to have a conversation, and we get really wrapped up with the people that say no, or they don't bother to respond, or they don't get back, or they don't turn up. And that can be frustrating, but it need not be, because they are qualifying themselves out of the audience that you want. You want people that are open and receptive to having a conversation with you. Some of that is timing, but some of it is that maybe sometimes we're talking to the wrong audience. And they suggest before you grow any business, you need to first get crystal clear on who you are even speaking to. Who is the audience you're going to impact? Who are you going to serve and how? And I think this is the next bit. And this is where we make assumptions. Once you know your audience, I think we've got to take time to research, to brainstorm, to discover, to write down their biggest challenges, their problems, their pains, their dreams, desires, their questions. What is it that audience has got challenges with? And I think there's two parts of that. I think if you're defining to begin with, we maybe define a really broad audience, anybody with a checkbook. Then we go down to a particular niche. In Mel's case, it's certainly marketing agencies, advertising agencies, creative agencies. But then that is not good enough. It's not good enough we might think of somebody in those areas, but it's far easier. It's what we need to do, therefore, then is to actually narrow that down even further and think, what is it, the challenges that they generally have? Now, one of the problems of that is that we imagine that everybody's got those same challenges. So we might want to reach out with one or two of those challenges because we know how to solve them, but we still need to qualify the person when we get on a call. And I think that's why we need to write down the challenges and the problems and the pains. And that's where we can decide to produce content so that that wider audience of creatives, advertising, etc., knows that you know your stuff and they can resonate. So it's understanding the audience's challenges and talk more about that on your website, on your networking meetings, on your one-to-ones, etc., and really digging and discovering those challenges. And then it's creating content. I'm ahead of myself there. Creating content addresses those challenges. And that, therefore, you've got to decide how you do that. There's an icon of writing blogs. I like to do videos. I've always preferred that method, but I do write as well. And it could be videos that you can then put on your website. Certainly videos are grabbing attention on social media, Facebook posts, blog posts, etc. And obviously those areas are designed to get people to lean in and to maybe, if the timing is right for them, to have a conversation. So I think this is the bit I want to talk about now, is how we build that audience and build the relationship. And it's treating people, it's not diving in too soon to a pitch or or what we think their challenge is. It's how we're reaching out. And let's take social media, for instance. It's how to proactively reach out to people. And I've got some thoughts here, and I'd be interested to see how everybody else has got some thoughts. Let me stop sharing that screen for the moment. And come back to where everybody is. So for those people that are reaching out on social media or they're attending their networking meetings, how are you doing that? Is it just are we just putting content up there? How could we build the audience? Who's building a wider audience? I know Marcus has built building, and I'll come to Ollie in a second. I know last week I may have given Marcus the impression that a massive audience is not important. And I want to qualify that because it's been concerning me. I think it's very important to create a massive audience, but within that audience, if you're wanting referral partners, that needs to be that is going to be by definition a lot smaller, and you need to build very, very good relationships with those people. But we still need to be constantly building an audience, because we don't know when that, that's spreading the word, if you like, that's promoting the business. Ollie, you had a point.
Yeah, I was going to just pick up on the branding you bit rather than branding your company. And I, particularly with social media, been very much just posting up kind of just, service stuff. This is what I offer, what I do kind of thing. And I'd only get about maybe like 4 or 5 likes on things. But I had a photo shoot with Nick last month. And so I've started to drip feed in sort of more pictures of me and a bit more about myself. And the last post I had about 30 likes on it, and much more interaction from people sort of asking about, they want to set up a meeting and things like that about new websites. So yeah, it was really, for me, it was a real kind of like powerful thing to see actually how much of a difference it makes for me from that, in terms of building the audience and, like you say, people just connecting with other people, really.
I don't want to dismiss branding the company by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's very important that the company, especially if you're growing the company, you've got other people working for you, then that is very important, and that needs some serious consideration. What I'm saying is that in the end, if you think about it, and Mel certainly does this, and when people move from one company to another, it's the person that has got the connection. We deal with people. When people want an electric car, or they want to lease a vehicle, do they think of Andy's company? And I can't even think of what Andy's company is called. I just know Andy. It's about Andy, that's for sure. Rebecca.
I think, yeah, definitely. That's really interesting what Ollie was saying. And you see it all the time on social media. I mean, people who are good on social media, they're plugging themselves all the time and putting their personality into it, no matter what they're selling, and they do really well. So I can imagine that pictures of you and the story you put with those pictures is really going to benefit your business. So
I was talking to my sister on the phone yesterday, and she's up in the north in Bramhall, just outside Manchester, and we talked about funerals and wills and things like that, as you do when you get to over 70. And I was telling her the story of Rod, and she said, what, on a market? I couldn't do that. And we started to talk about the relationship that people have at a certain time in their life with certain things like wills, certain things like maybe probate, care homes, funerals, etc. And I was reciting the fact that who's got a relationship besides Rod? Who had a relationship with a funeral director? Andy, Chris. So you knew them personally. Is it that you went into their premises because you want to make an inquiry, or is it that how did that relationship start?
Go on. Okay, mine's a good friend of mine. Just happens to work in one. So yeah. Right.
So you've got that relationship. That person's a friend. Chris.
Believe it or not, it was after my mum's funeral, to be honest, where I was talking to the funeral director about lots of things, and he came in and we were chatting about backs, and although we didn't end up setting it up simply because of the timing of it, Paul, obviously mum died in January last year, so by the time we got to this conversation, we were all teetering on the brink of lockdown. But I've stayed in touch with them, and I expect to go in and do the whole lot, do the massage.
It could be lifting coffins, etc., can be quite challenging on the back. Yes, But the point is that it's not the company that you've got the relationship, it's with the individual. And that's why Rod is so successful, because he creates conversations in the marketplace. Whereas the only other funeral directors, and there's about 11 that advertise in the area, are companies. We don't know the individuals in there. So it's all about individuals. And Anne-Marie, you have a very, very good, you are very active on LinkedIn. You're great at selling stories. Maybe you inspired me yesterday to tell my story, and maybe that's, you know, why I've got that response. So how are you building how are you generating leads on on that platform or anywhere? How are you generating leads?
Oh, no voice. Sorry. I've really got no voice. I would love to answer that question, but I can't. I'm very sorry.
That's all right. I didn't... Right. Okay. They are. Chris is waving his hands there. One of the suggestions that this particular blog suggests is actually doing a combination of content and also reaching out to build the audience, and that is going on groups. Is anybody active on any groups on social media? Nathan, in what way?
I'm a member of one. Occasionally I post, but it's a kind of like a LinkedIn coaching group. So I use that group more for sort of road testing things to put out on the wider world of LinkedIn. So it is good. You can kind of put in like a post and just sort of ask for people's opinions on it if they think it's too risque or whatever. But I don't really use it as a sounding board for kind of leads and stuff, more just these sort of LinkedIn.
Well, it could very well be that there are groups out there on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or wherever your audience is likely to be, that actually have got particular interested. So it could be that in Andy's case, it could be people that are interested in electric cars. It could be people that are interested in green energy, etc. So there's one area where if it's a defined audience that we want to reach, maybe in Marcus's case, it could be people involved in style or fashion or you know, men's groups, etc. It's thinking about where is that audience likely to be hanging out. And in some cases, in a lot of cases, the very active people that are active and engaging will be on those groups, and actually looking for those into those groups, not diving in with a lot of content, but looking to see who's on there that you can connect with, who's on there that's posting quite a bit, who's on there that you would like to particularly follow. And the suggestion is that we follow first, maybe we follow, and we have some sort of engagement before we ask for a friend request. I get friend requests all the time, and I think I don't even know these people. I don't know who they're, you know, where they're coming from, what do they want, etc. So I think, like anything, you know, we're a bit wary of strangers coming up to us. But if you're in a group that you've got some expertise, and in Ollie's case, it could be in web development, and could be SEO, it could be any of the areas. In Rebecca's case, it could be architectural groups. Now, in some of those cases, they may be too far away to actually be a client, but that's not the point. If you're in, say, an architectural group, a lot of people would just be lurking on those groups, but some of those people will be quite active in discussing issues that you might be able to help with. Even though it might not result in paid work, you'll have an opinion on. So you build that reputation in that way. So it's almost the combination of reaching out, outbound, and at the same time, getting content or producing content in that group. That is something I've decided I'm going to do over the next few weeks. And I'm going to reach out mainly to people in the Somerset area. So I've got to look for groups, both on Facebook and LinkedIn, that have actually in those areas. Secondly, I really want to be engaging with marketing people and creative people and people that have got businesses, whether that's a full-time business or it's a home business, because I can help any business raise their profile, think about their marketing, etc. So that's the way I would do that. Is there any groups that, I mean, Rob, have you on any groups at all?
Yeah, yes, I am on a couple of coaching, a few coaching groups that are born from the particular school of coaching I went through. So that's very good. It's sometimes it's too close to coaching in some respects, but it's very good to keep a finger on the pulse of what the particular style of coaching, what's happening in that world.
Yeah.
But I do realise I need to broaden my horizons. I did last week though. I went to a golf club straight after our meeting and touched base with the pros there, because they serve my client base, and have introduced myself, and hopefully we're going to have a chat and a coffee at some point in the future.
Well, the beauty of that is so let's take golf clubs. Could be interested to go on to some golf groups or golf pro groups.
Yeah.
I mean, for instance, I know a golf pro that was a director of BNI up in the Wirral, and that's a bit far for you to travel, maybe. But nevertheless, and if I knew more about how the golfers would benefit, whether that's the fitness side of your business or the mental side, probably the mental side, because they say that, you know, when you're doing that final putt, it's what's going on in your head that makes the difference as to whether you hold it or not. You know, so if golfing professionals are your audience, you say, where are they? Where are they already meeting? And it's the same with online networks. People, you do get some people, and I know of them, and certainly not on here, that go to every networking event that they go to, which is ridiculous because it's all surface stuff. You want to find networking groups, whether that's 1, 2, 3, it doesn't really matter, and decide how you're going to use those to generate leads. And from a networking point of view, the key way, in my view, is to find that people are already have got the target audience. I've mentioned that before. Let me just share the screen again and just take it on. Sorry, Ali, you go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's a group I want to join, and some of my friends join. There's a vegan sort of business owners networking group that's just for vegan-owned businesses and companies who want to work with people who share similar ethics. And my friends who are in that group have said it's been really good for them, sort of getting work out of and forming kind of connections. So I think there are other kind of types of groups that fit our kind of interests and things like that, as well as just what we do type of thing.
Is that because you're a vegan?
Yeah.
That Ollie raises a very good point there, because it's not just only about business, it's where you've got a shared interest. And I know that whenever I visited any salon or any stranger I meet, my conversation is light. And my conversation is, I'm looking intuitively for something we may have in common. I think Rod's changed his personality completely. Hi, Holly. Now, Holly, if you want to know Google, Holly's the person to tap up, because her partner is a high flyer at Google. I think that's for sure. But Holly is a. Do you want to tell us something about yourself, Holly? I'm going to come back to Ollie. Holly, tell us something about yourself.
I'm just stepping in for Dad because he's gone. But I'm a primary school teacher. And I'm looking to set up my own business soon. So, yeah.
Now, I know, and I know you're not here for the sake of Marketing Crew, but I know that you started a very successful business, and I'm going to use that as an example. And that's still going, isn't it?
Oh yes, I'm working on that at the moment, actually.
Now, was that that's the coffee, isn't it?
Yeah. We've just released our advent calendar for this year, so we basically reach out to independent roasters from across the UK, and we support their small businesses by buying from them and then delivering a different pouch of coffee to coffee lovers and drinkers around the UK each week, so that they can try a new coffee each week, as well as support the small independent roasters along the way.
Well, the Caffeine Club, isn't it? It's a subscription model, Caffeine Club.
Yeah. Secret Caffeine Club.
Very.
Although it's not a secret.
And just out of interest, when did you start that?
We started in 2019, but it was just for kind of families and friends, just to kind of get a feel for things. And then when the pandemic hit in March 2020, we found that lots of people weren't in the offices anymore, so they were drinking coffee at home. And all of the roasters and small cafes were missing out on the footfall of people going into work. So it massively kind of took off in March, April time of 2020. And then we've just continued along the way from there.
And how many subscribers have you got now?
At the moment, in total, there's around 350 to 400, depending on who drops in and out each week. But it's different. It's a different amount of people each week, because some people only drink coffee, only need 250 grams over 3 weeks, whereas we've got somebody who might drink coffee all day long and get coffee every week. So it depends on what their subscription is, because we offer flexibility of signing up for a weekly subscription, or 2 weekly or 3 weekly, and so on.
Great, thank you for that, Holly. Subscription models, that's an interesting concept. I know Dollar Shave in the States and Harry's are, I subscribe to Harry's, and I actually subscribe to the London Sock Company, where they send me a pair of socks every week. And they are the best socks I've ever had. And
they are great.
Quite outstanding. And even people are remarking on my yellow socks in the photo shoot that Marcus did. So remember, you want to stand out. People look at your shoes, and next they look at your socks. Thanks for that, Holly. So back to Ollie's point, I think that actually it's not only your target audience, but it's also people you have something in common and with, and especially if it's in an audience that you can also serve, because people don't have to be in business to recommend you at all. They don't have to be even in the core market, but something you've got in common with somebody brings you together. And I think that's an important part of the conversation. So when you're reaching out to people online, or even, and again, it's the same in a networking event, you've got to just take that in a nice, easy fashion. This is why you'll see me posting about ditching the pitch. And I'm not against somebody that's got a one-liner or has a clarity over what they do or how they serve. I'm not against that at all. It's just the way that most people pitch their products. You see it all the time. The first thing out of their mouth is a pitch. So timing is very important. And the timing, as far as I'm concerned, is deciding which groups, who you've got in common. And it could be, you don't want to be in lots of groups. That would be ridiculous. It'd be too much. But it's maybe having 2, maybe 3 groups, deciding when you're going to go on those groups, who you're going to connect with on those. Well, first of all, the groups that you go on, you are looking for 2 things. You're looking for volume in the group, but you're also, more important, looking for activity in the group. How many posts are on. And in that group, who are the influential people? Who are the people who set it up, for instance? Who are the people that are posting a lot? Who are the people that have got lots of contacts? They would be the people that you would look to. Would you spam those people? Absolutely not. Would you look for any software that reaches out to a lot of people? Again, not very authentic. I think you've got to say, right, I'm going to reach out to maybe 5 people a day on whatever group it is. That would be 25 people. And that means that before you reach out to them, you at least look, are they active? You at least look at their profile, and
you look at some of the things they're posting, and you're looking for something that you may be able to comment on. You might not want to comment on that to begin with, or you might do, or you might want to think, well, this is an interesting person I'd like to get to know. There could be a referral partner, there could be it could be somebody you can help with. To actually click on there and ask for a follow, or just follow. And the point is that they then will definitely, when they see that somebody's following them, a bit like a stalker, they will look back at your profile. So that what we're talking about here presupposes that they are going to, you are going to get your profile right, so that what they see has got authority, etc. So I know from my Facebook profile, I have a combination of things, and there's been times when I've been quite outspoken about political issues. If that's been your case, you really maybe just want to take those off. I know Nathan can get a little bit political, a bit left-wing, and that's okay. But you know what people are like on from a social media. Let me just share the screen again as to where I was with that, and then we'll do some breakout sessions. So it's building an audience, and we go to networking events and we spend a couple of hours at a networking events to build a relationship with referral partners. And we need to educate those people about the relationships we want to build with the audience that we want to be in. And some people say, well, I don't have time to do all this on LinkedIn or whatever. Even if you're just doing it on LinkedIn, even if it's just on Facebook, it can take 15 minutes, 20 minutes to reach out to 4 or 5 people, especially when you get good at that. At some point, so the conversation would have to be in what you've got in common. And I don't rush at all in any networking event, whether it's online or whatever. I don't rush in with my business. I used to. I was pretty hot off the mark. But what I tend to do is to ask open questions. I tend to be really interested in them. And I leave my agenda, if I've got it, I don't have an agenda. You know, obviously I'd like more business, but that's not in my mind. I'm looking to try and find out more about that person as a person, and see how they're doing. So maybe we can have some conversations about how we might do that. But the best way, and I think Rob has mentioned this, is the best way is just to talk to people, listen to people. Again, if you don't have an agenda, you're just talking about them and you know, their situation. If I was at a networking event, and I very often will say, how long have you been, how long have you been coming to this event? Have you made any good contacts? Who's the person that you resonate with most? Why is that? But at some point you will want to find out, or it might, generally I find it surfaces the more conversation you have about what they've got the issues of. And it's sometimes, if you're listening intently, it's not what they say, it's what they don't say. So that was the summary, really. It's about building an audience in your networking events. Your networking events tend to be reasonably closed because most networking groups have a set number of people that go to that. And in those instances, what we're really doing is to build those relationships deeper to reach out to that wider audience. On social media, it's a lot easier to actually build the audience by constantly or setting yourself a target to actually extend that audience. The next stage is engaging that audience, and the third stage is with the right people that need your services because you've identified and they've identified that you're in a position to help them. You actually then to sell to that audience, make a suggestion as to how you may want to take this relationships forward. So I want to do a breakout now with everybody. And the way I want to do this is let's go create some rapport. And at this stage, I don't necessarily want to talk about the business side. I want to actually create some rapport. In other words, what do you have in common with the person that you're then in front of? And I think you've got to be interested, explore backgrounds, just take it, forget the business for a moment. This is the bit about rapport, creating relationship. What can you find out about each other that you maybe have in common that you didn't know before this breakout session? Are we all clear on that?